A very good morning, sanvuselelo mhlekuseni mazadla mahle. It is exactly 6 o'clock lukushagona kucala kwehlele full mhlekuseni. There's a beautiful morning, the Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2024. Nvuselako ngulungelile magagola. It's a beautiful day today. Tikolo atiyavulwa lamuhla. Some are excited and some are anxious of what to expect because by tikolweni iletinsha. My co-host Eswatini will be roaming around the city this morning, giving us an overview of Google T. How's the first day of school looking like at Dolopeni. Kakhulu kade nje siphithiphithi sabantwana besikole ebus rank kanye nasedolobheni. Mnguni, how are you this morning? Kubukeka kunjani lo mhlekuseni lapho eMbabane edolobheni?
Well, good morning to you, Lulu. Ngivuselekene babukeli emakhaya. Indeed, you are very right. Sise Hlokodolopa eMbabane ebus rank. What better place to be to get a sense of lusuku nje lokuqala lokuvula kwetikolo than the bus rank, where everything ultimately begins. Lapho khona sibona emakhumbi angena lomuhla cishe ngendlela lehlukile than the previous days. The buzz, the busyness, the excitement, netistress nje nekutatela ubona kulabanye ukuthi kungathi kukhona ke kuba late nyalo. That is where we are, just to get the sense of ukuthi uma tivulwa tikolo lamuhla umsebenzi utawuhamba kanjani. Yes, today marks the official opening, or rather the beginning of the 2024 school calendar. You want to remember that the Eswatini National Schools Associations of Teachers ikile yathi yapropose ekuthenini kuvulwa kwetikolo asekube postponed kancane, but the ministry was adamant. Yathi schools should be open today and will be open today. And indeed, ngilesikubonako lokusilapha ebus rank sibona abantu abesikolo bahamba ngema uniform, sibona emabhasi angena ngebuningi bawo lomuhla akuthwale bona abantwana besikolo. But here's another thing that we are noting here. We are also noticing ukuthi le excitement ayikho kubantu besikolo kuphela. Of course kuba nabo make laba bangema vendor uyababona batfele kudla kwabo. We managed to talk to them off air though nasafika lapha ebus rank, nabo basho ukuthi it's a relief kuvulwa kwetikolo kutawubasita kakhulu emabhizinisini abo bantwana basabuyela etikolweni. And perhaps sisakhulumisa yona lendzaba lena, one ought to highlight perhaps some of the exercises and issues culminating to today lesiwabonako. The first one of course being the financial rush lesiyibonako and the financial pain yayo back to school kubatali. Of course kuba kubhatalwa kwama school fees, kube kulungiswa kwayo i-transport, labanye abantwana bahamba ngetitaff, kube ngidindzaba tetikaftin. I was around town etolo Nzambama seeing a lot of parents with their kids. Uyabona na ubuka lama trolley ukuthi okay lana sekulungiselwa ngetikaftin tabo bokhewana, which is interesting and very exciting. But perhaps an interesting development that we do want to highlight yindzaba yemsebenzi lomuhle lowentiwe ehhovisi leliphini landvunankulu, just to anticipate lusuku lwalamuhla. 6 days ago bakhokhe statement just to remind parents of their legal and moral duty of protecting their own children. Indzaba ke yakuvulwa kwetikolo nayo ibengile enforcwa kakhulu njengoba bavetile indzaba yokuthi bese bababona abantwana kungathi baba banengi lapha on the streets and they are not going to school. So it is beautiful to see today ukuthi bantwana vele bayaya etikolweni nebatali bakhunjutiwe ngayo illegal and their moral duty. Lebeso ke ifulfillwa yi-Children's and Protections Welfare Act of 2012 njengokusho kwalo liphini landvunankulu. It will be an interesting day that we do want to track and move around, the schools in the vicinity in Mbabane in close proximity. Sitawufuna kuya lapha ka boys esikolweni. We do have an appointment actually with the head teacher there, just to get a sense of ukuthi bona basaqala esikuvula lamhla esikolweni batahamba ngelinyawo lelikanjani. We do know them as a top performing school and we do have the privilege of having them in close proximity. We will talk to them and perhaps other nearby schools latawuba khona lesitawukhona kufinyelela kuwo kulo 2 hours wethu lesinayo lomuhla eluhlelweni lungelele. We are hoping for a very good and seamless day into the opening of schools. Perhaps even talk to some of the little kids, bantwana besikolo, the pupils kuva excitement yabo nabo basabiyela esikolweni. Back to you in studio.
Rasmakhulu mngoni sitawonana later. Mbukele that was my co-host Sfiso lapha edolobheni ebus rank. Uhlola nje simo ukuthi sihamba kanjani lo mhlekuseni as bafunzi basalungiselela kuya etikolweni. He'll be back at 6 this morning. Kanti kumanje let's take a look at newspaper headlines. Siqale sibuke i-Times of Eswatini this morning kuthi ngidiphi lethamba imbili. Azikuleto leti hamba imbili Swazi farm to destroy 20 million amalangeni expired drugs and also blames government. Director Ashraf accuses government of criminal negligence as innocent lives lost due to shortage of drugs. More on that story on page 2. Kanzikuletinye leti hamba imbili 2 teachers injured and 2 critical after Kumbi accident. Ngotikile nari yendeke itolo idolobheni enhlangano. Kuletinye lethamba imbili master's office inquiry start date has been set. Kuletibuya kuletinye relief for pupils who failed from 3. There's a 4-year pilot program letago. Kubuka indzaba yamakelwa poison abampha bakhe. She faces 3 charges of murder. Kansansibuka kutemidlalo, Times of Eswatini, Mkhonto joins Shwaneng Galaxy, and kuletinye lethamba imbili Ernest Nuro join Sihlangu. Kutange phandle nasibuka i-AFCON, Nigeria advance, Equatorial Guinea stun Ivorians. Nasibuka i-Eswatini Observer lomuhla kuleti hamba imbili Ashraf lifts lid on health crisis, says crisis self-created, screams criminal negligence in health ministry. And so it's back to school today. St. Mark's High School boarders assisting each other in offloading their belongings upon arrival. Itolo and Tambama. Poisoned kids, an update the mother has confessed. Minister challenges snat on 4,000 vacancies. Looking at the sports news on the Eswatini Observer, Mxolisi joins Botswana Giants. Player pens 2-year deal with Shwaneng Galaxy. Green Mamba wish him well, and Mkhonto might feature for his new team this weekend. Ernest Nuro in as Dominic stays put. Wetanga Pando Kwakuleli Super Eagles see off jitters to progress. Leading headlines on the Eswatini Daily News this Tuesday. More salary delays for UNESCO staff, and Swazi Farm donates medical supplies with 1.8 million emalangeni, and the Manzini Council Royal Eswatini Police Service holds successful back to school road show. And leading headlines on the sports news, I'm ready to serve Sihlangu ngekushokwa Ernest. Green Mamba head coach Ernest Mavuso says he is humbled by the appointment as assistant coach at the national team Sihlangu and will be giving his best to help turn the squad's fortunes around. Kanti kutange phandle kwakuleli Alcaraz in Australian Open quarter-finals. Kuletinye Wanderers Madlenya face 100,000 fine. We're also hoping to speak to clinical psychologist Ndo Mdlalose kuva kabana nje ukuthi ngabe imcwanga nani i-mental health kubantwana, especially labo nje labatocala etikolweni letinsha, and what tips are there for parents to look out for kubuka ukuthi umfana akahlubedeke yini esikoleni. She'll be joining us lamhla ekuseni at 6:30. Let's take a break. When it's about Eswatini.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letentiya ngaleso sikhatsi, tindzaba letide emagama lacosheme, letitsembekile, letitsintsa tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni.
Kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele, siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letichamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Asiphindze sinimukele ethi 11 minutes after 6 nati tindzaba. Sihlalo wenhlangano G77 plus China lokungumengameli welive le-Uganda Yoweri Museveni uthi utawenta isiqiniseko sokuthi uyakhulumisana nabalingani bakhe emaveni lapho kunemsimvo khona ikakhulukazi e-Afrika kude i-Afrika itawuthuthuka. Museveni uthi kulwa lokukhona e-Afrika ngiko lokwenta lelive kati lisalele imuva kude ntfuthuko. Bekakhuluma nakavala ngalokusemthethweni umhlangano wesithathu wenhlangano G77 plus China lobanjelwe eveni le-Uganda. Kulo mhlangano umhlonishwa uNdunankulu Russell Dlamini bekathi amelele isilo inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Sokufika emaphethelweni umhlangano wesithathu we-G77 plus China lebe ubanjelwe enhlokodolobha yelive le-Uganda iKampala. Akhuluma nakuvala lo mhlangano ngalokusemthethweni mengameli welive le-Uganda Yoweri Museveni lophindze yabe ngusihlalo wale nhlangano uchazile ukuthi kulomnyaka lapho angusihlalo khona utawuhambisa embili tinhlelo tekuthuthukisa tekukhicita kutholakala kwetimakethe kanye nekuthuthukisa luhlangosi lotakhiwo ikakhulukazi leto letimcoka ekuhambiseni umkhicito. Museveni uthi emave langephansi kwale nhlangano ye-G77 plus China akabambisane etinhlangothini letiningi aphindze asebenzisane nemave langephansi kwenhlangano lengatingeni indzabata lamanye emave emhlaba. Uthi sesifikile isikhathi sekuthi emave ase-Afrika abambisane odwa kutekutsengiselana. Uthi-ke lokho-ke kutawenta ukuthi lithuthuke livekati le-Afrika. Uthi akuphele kuthinya kutsenga tintfo letiningi ngesheya kwetilwandle abe lawo mave lawo kude lokunganani lakulandza e-Afrika. Museveni uthi akwaliwa ukuthi emave ase-Afrika asebenzisane netihlobo tawo tangesheya njengoba live lakhe libambisene netihlobo talo tase-Indonesia kanye ne-China ekukhiciteni tintfo letifaka ekhatsi tincingo nalokunye lokusebenzisa buchwepheshe kanye nekuthuthukisa tekulima ikakhulukazi banana njengoba live lakhe lesibili emhlabeni ekukhiciteni banana. Mengameli Museveni uyigcizelele kakhulu indzaba yokuthi akube nekuthula e-Afrika kude i-Afrika itawuthuthuka. Uthi kude intuthuko lengaba khona uma kunetimbi nemsindvo kuleli vekati. Lo mengameli uthi utawukhulumisana nebalingani bakhe bakuleli vekati lapho kunemsindvo khona babukisane ukuthi letinsele tibhekene nalawo mave lawo tingalungiseka kanjani kude kube nekuthula lokutawuholela ekuthenini kuthuthuke i-Afrika. Mengameli Museveni ubese uyagucisa lo mhlangano kanti-ke isilo semhlaba besikade simelelwe uNdunankulu umhlonishwa Russell Dlamini. Umbiko uhlanganiswe ngeLinkedIn Gule ngiseKampala e-Uganda.
Liphinile uNdunankulu umhlonishwa tulidladla lithi mengameli welive le-DRC Felix Tshisekedi ujabule kakhulu ukutfola tilokotho letiphuma enkosini Mswati wesithathu. Lo mengameli bekafungiswa ukuba ngumengameli welive leCongo kanti ingonyama beyimelelwe liphinile uNdunankulu umhlonishwa tulidladla kulo msebenzi. Liphinile uNdunankulu belikhuluma ehekeni engwenya emsombuluko nalibuya kulo msebenzi wokufungiswa kwakhe mengameli Tshisekedi.
Likhuluma ehekeni lasengwenya liphinda uNdunankulu umhlonishwa tulidladlana libuye emsebenzini wokufungiswa kwamengameli welive le-DRC Felix Tshisekedi. Liphinda uNdunankulu lithi umsebenzi uhambe kahle kakhulu bakhona-ke nekudibana naye emengameli bendlulisa tilokotho letinhle tengwenyama.
Nomsebenzi wakhe waba mhle kakhulu. Sibonga nje ngwenyameni ukuthi naloku sikhathi besisifisha ngaphela sathi ukuthi uwine ngayitolo ngakusasa sekufanele ukuthi masinyane abekwe ngalokusemthethweni. So kwagijinwa vele sekubhudelwa lama relations kakhulu nje ngathi emkhathini wayo ngwenyama naye president lokhona afuthumele kakhulu. Na labanye ke baholi awube babanyenti ngiyacanga bebafika le kubo 20 libe kanze bakhona nalabo ke lebekanze bathunye baholi bangakaphumeleli. Simbonile ke naye sasonzela kuye samniketa tilokotho letiphuma engwenyameni. Ngitsite nje uma ngivela ngiyomchawula ngiyacabanga ukuthi wangirecognize wangichawula nje impela uma ngimtshela ukuthi ngithunywe engwenyama ukuthi ngidinga uyimelela sitomhalalisela kulo msebenzi ngokuthi ingwenyama isesemsebenzini wesive.
Ngikusho kwelibandla lelingamelela ukhetho kulela live mengameli Tshisekedi uwine lukhetho ngalokungema-70 ekhulwini kanti-ke sewuwina lukhetho lokuba ngumengameli kwesibili. Etindzabeni ngingugiyani Msibi ngisehekeni lasengwenya.
Akulokunye liphina ndvunankhulu umhlonishwa wathu lidladla lithi uhulumende uyadati futhi uyadisebenta tinkinga letikhona ekubhadalweni kwemali yebantfwana bendlunkulu etikolweni. Liphina ndvunankhulu lithi uhulumende uyayibhadala leyo mali bantfwana abaya etikolweni kubete umfana lohlete ekhaya.
Liphina ndvunankhulu lithi uhulumende uyaticonza tinkinga letimali letenta kungasebenteki kahle etikolweni nasekubhadalweni kwemali yebantfwana bendlunkulu, kodwa-ke konke lokho yintfo layisebentako uhulumende.
Sithi-ke kubatali laba labangathathi bantwana babamikise etikolweni kulicala, nekuyekelela umfana ehla enyuka estradini angayi esikolweni kulicala. Uma bathi imali ayisi enough, vele uhulumende ubonile lokho and uyakusebenta uhulumende ukuthi ayingedwe e-primary kule free primary education, iphinde ingedwe nalapha e-high school. Konke lokho sikubeke elayinini, siyakulungisa ukuthi ingedwe le mali uma ubuka lama expenses nekuthi letinye tikolwa atisalungi kahle. Sibone ukuthi kuleli viki njalo ukuthi ikolwa tivula, sitawuhafulana si-cabinet, siphume sivakashele letikolo, sitotibonela thine letinkinga letilapha esikolweni, sibuye siplane kahle. Nekuthi-ke etikwako konke lokho kufanele ukuthi siphinde sibuke ukuthi le mfundo lesisayinika isengiyo yini, ngenzaba yokuthi bantwana kuchamuke start nje lesikhombisa ukuthi kungena over 57,000 lokhu kuvulwa njenyalo ka grade 1, but uma baphuma ka standard 5 sebalapha ko 27,000. Wonke kwelo 27,000 ngoba uphasile bese uyangena la ka form 1, but uma sebaphuma ka form 4 sebam 15,000. Baphi bonke laba?
Ucela abatali labanaloko limaselele kubhadala etikolweni babhadalele bantfu babo ukuthi bente njalo bangabeseke nanabo sebayekelela uhulumende. Etindzabeni kubeka Giyani Msibi, sehekeni laseNgwenya.
Masike kulokunye futhi liphina ndvunankhulu umhlonishwa wathu lidladla lithi lihhovisi layo lendalo kusemandleni ukuthi tikolwa letapheshukelwa tilungiselwe luphahla lolaphephuka kude kufundza kuchubeke kahle nebafundzi bafundze la kukahle khona. Liphina ndvunankhulu lithi kuleli viki lisetulu kutawube kusebentwa loko.
Endzabeni yetikolo etaphephuka kunesiphepo lapha eveni, liphina ndvunankhulu umhlonishwa wathu lidladla lithi inkampani leluphiko lwahulumende i-micro projects kungumanje isebenta kona ukuthi ibuyisele lolo phahla lolwaphephuka etikolweni. Uthi-ke kuyaconza ukuthi tikolwa tiyavulwa kusasa lokusako, kodwa-ke nanabo benta lokusemandleni.
Micro project nje usetikwato ngeke ngahamba ngabheka ngalapha ngoba bengibonile umhube ukuthi unakale kangakanani. Ngiyile ke ngakhona ngakhanza ukuthi bebangakacali ngathi uma ngumthinsa minister ka education washo ukuthi bathi macro project is on the ground. Nangembala ngathi uma ngibuya ngakhanza sebasetule emathayileni batisebenta leto tikolo. Ngilokunye nako lokho lisitakubuka kuleli viki ezisihamba sibona letikolo.
Uthina noma usengakacali-ke lo msebenzi kuletinye tikolwa, kodwa-ke bayagijima kwadise ukuthi tikolwa setiyavula. Uthi-ke bayatama ukuthi bahlanganise netimali lapho tidzingakala khona. Bayatama-ke ukuthi lokungenani kuthi kuphela liviki kube sekukhona lokwendakalako nakuleto tikolwa lapho kusengakacali lutho khona kubuyisela lolo luphahla. Endzabeni ngingiyani Msibi, ngisehekeni laseNgwenya.
Imvana yelitiko letemfundvo umhlonishwa owenqumalo uyithi konke sekume ngemumo etikolweni njengoba tikolwa tivulwa lamuhla. Ikhuluma emahhovisini ayo eMbabane, imvana yithi tikolwa titawuvulwa njengaloko tayelekile njengoba netimali te-free primary education setifakwe etikolweni letahlukene.
Laba labasangatitholi bakahulumeni lokusibaletha lama records late, kepha nakhona info letawusheshe yendeke kulona leli viki leli nekuhla sekuvele kuyile etikolweni. Singuhulumende ke wembube asiboni ukuthi kukhona lokhu noma sekunetincwadi stationery sesile netimali setihanjisiwe. Lokho ngikolo key lokutawenda ukuthi tikolwa etivulwe, but ke lesizokutholile lokunye okusivisa kuhlungu lethi phepho njengasemhubhe nje sivile ukuthi cishe lelo liphahla luhambile kepha na vele litiko ba micro projects they are on the ground bayasisebenta leso sikolo leso. Lokunye lesingakucela asiwathole lama reports lapho khona kuthiwa kude bo head teacher kushoda bo head teacher stokhona letindzaba leto kuti sebenta.
Inkampani yeSwazi Farm seyinikelele litiko letempilo imithi namaphilisi lokubita sigidi nengcenye samalangeni 1.8 million amalangeni. Imvana yelitiko letempilo umhlonishwa Mduduzi Mathebula wemukele lulusito lapho bekamelele khona kumabhalane lomkhulu kulelitiko Khanya Mabuza.
Akhuluma ngesikhathi ethula lulusito lwemithi umcondzisi weSwazi Farm Karim Hashraf uthi letinkinga letikhona tekweselakala kwemithi nemaphilisi etibhedlela telive lenkampani inalo limasela lokubambisa live kuti sombulula njengoba kumanje lenkampani itawube ilahla imithi nemaphilisi labita tigidzi letingemashumi temalangeni 20 million losole ihleti seyiphelele isikhathi.
Swazi Farm can confirm it is going to destroy medical supplies. What 20 million because it has been sitting at our warehouse until it got expired. Swazi Farm is preparing to burn the expired medical drugs. A stock of close to 2 million will be expiring by the end of this year, 2024. In the stock, we still have more medical drugs and medical supplies, but more than 50 million waiting for government to make orders through the tender that still exist in our favor to save Swazis.
Emukela lulusito imvuna yetempilo umhlonishwa Mduduzi Mathebula lebekamelwe ngumabhalane lomkhulu kulelitiko Khanya Mabuza uthi hulumende usebenta tindlela tekucinisa emathulusi laphathelene nemithi nemaphilisi.
Kwekucala kutransforma le-Central Medical Store sibona sisingayenda njani. Ngeke ngichaze kabanje kwanyalo safuna sithole abantu bayile eLesotho babukusetshenziswa njalo eLesotho sahlanganisa ke lamaphepha sidabe siyabela kahle ke kuhulumende wethu ukuthi nalo sekukhanzaba lokungasebenzela thina silivela kangwane ngoba ngi-emphasize lokutawusebenzela lamaswati. Okwesibili ke kusilamaphilisi nasisuka ke lapha e-Central Medical Stores ayalesibhedlela ayifika yini sibonile ukuthi kumbe kukhona lapho timoto tinjani timoto tethu nakhona sesizamile ukutibuketa ukuthi timoto asikhona phela ukuthi tracker dithi tihamba tona yini ekugcineni futhi buye la makhamera ukuthi imoto nje sibone ukuthi nanga sokuyavuleka sikhona lokusisiwa track afike ke la sibhedlela lapho kufanele sibe careful khona again ukuthi ayefika esibhedlela ayareceive ayangena la sibhedlela kula mafamasi.
Litiko letempilo lithi lendzaba lesehluphele ive laseSwatini isikhathi ekoselakala kwemithi nemaphilisi itawube seyisombululekile ngeminyaka imali wahulumende lotako wa 2023-2024. Etinsabende eSwatini TV kubika Samkelsiwe khoza nasimuva Shongwe kumathapha.
Imali letfolwe live enhlanganweni yemave lasesifundeni leSanders neAfrica labelana ngemthelo yesakhu itawuthuthukisa umnotho welive. Lokho kuvete ngomphathi welibhange lelikhulu kuleli Dr. Phil Mnisi ngesikhathi yachaza ukuthi kushona ukufika kwale mali emnothweni welive.
Njengoba indvuna yetemafa imemetele ukuthi live lithole imali leng-13.06 billion emalangeni enhlanganweni yakasakhu sikhulumisene nemphathi welibhange lelikhulu kuleli Dr. Phil Mnisi kuva ukuthi engabe lokhu kushona emnothweni welive.
Lokhu kutaba neligalelo lelikhulu kukhulisa umnotho ikakhulu the capital expenditure infrastructure yahulumende isalele emuva. Siyakholwa ukuthi lama sacco receipts atawukhona kunema projects lamakhulu uhulumende lawabukile lesikholwa ukuthi atawu contributor to economic growth. Nayo ke siyakholwa ukuthi induna itawuthi isabuka lokukhula kwalama sacco receipts iphindze futhi ibekelele eceleni ngoba kutawusida ngetikhathi lapho khona ema-sacco receipts aphasi. Endzabeni ke yekubooster ema-reserves vele lokho siyakuthokodela silive siphindze siyi-Central Bank ngoba lama-sacco receipts eta as a foreign currency. Ngaleso sizathu ke uma hulumende asangena nje ayawufukula vele kakhulu ingubo yelive lakangwane. Kusendeka lokho ngingacwayisa nje ukuthi kumqoka lokuthi silive siwajabulele la ama-sacco receipts but singabese sesiyama kuwo kwangazuthi ngeke umnotho usaphila live liphile ngaphandle kwawo. Akukhule leti ndlela tekukhulisa umnotho domestically for export purposes so that generate foreign reserves ethu through our export industries and manufacturing plants that are set up in the country.
Eminyakeni lophelile imali letfolwe live kaSACCO beyiku 11.75 billion emalangeni. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Nelsiwendla ngamandla kunavuma inkosi inzinisa embabane.
Live litawuchubeka nekwanzisa lwati ngetindzaba tekuvikela imininingwane kuti sive samaswati siphephe sisasebentisa tekuchumana lokuvetwe ngilobukela uhlangothi lokuvikela imininingwane ebandleni lilengamele tekuchumana yeSwatini Communications Commission sicelo simelane ngesikhathi yakhuluma ngeliviki lokuvikela imininingwane.
Iviki lamhlati nge-22 kulenyanga lesetulu liviki lapha emave emhlaba anzisa khona lwati ngetindzaba tekuvikela umniningwane i-Data Protection Awareness Week lelive laseSwatini lona litabe ligubha leliviki kwekucala lonyaka njengoba sewaphasa umtsetfo lobuke kuvikela wona umniningwane i-Data Protection Act womnyaka wa 2022. Umphathi welihlangothi lolubuke kuvikela umniningwane ebandleni lengamele tekuchumana sicelo simelane uthi sive sisatsinga kufundiswa kabanti ngekuvikela umniningwane.
Beyisekutheni bekude kahle nalo lwati kulabo kithi thina le data lekunyenthi ukuthi vele i-information yakho ukhipha lenganani siveni. Siyesibone nje noma ku Facebook umuntu uzubona lo nje ungabe lo vele bekufanele ukuthi kungaya kubantu. Kepha-ke besithe lo lwati kwesithathu into yokuthi ngoba i-data yethu kakhulu isetinkampanini kumabhizinisi nawo bokhanza ukuthi ede lo lwati lekuthi ayigcina njani futhi-ke bekude nalobaphocelelayo ngoba phela nakude umthetho ukuthi abaphocelela njani. Ngathi thina besilapho silive kepha-ke nawubuka lokuthi loku i-ESCOM asanikwe-ke lo msebenzi wokucala ukuthi eluse kusho sesilive sesithuthuke impela.
Leli viki ligujwa ngaphansi kwesicubulo lesithi thatha tinyathelo uvikele umniningwane wakho kanti kuleli viki libandla lengamele tekuchumana litawube lanzisa lwati ngetindzaba tekuvikela umniningwane sive sisachumana. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkeliswe Khoza ngasimuva Shongwe embabane.
Imidlalo mengameli wenhlangano leyengamele umdlalo webhola kuleli Peter Simelane umemetele lushintsho kubaceceshi belikhethelo lesive sihlango semnikati lelifaka ekhathi Ernest Mavuso weGreen Mamba kanye naSifiso Ntibane labatawusekela Dominic Kunene. Simelane uvetelo kwemhlanganweni betindzaba esigwaca house embabane.
Silana Eswatini House lapho khona kuyindlungulu yayo inhlangano lengamele umdlalo webhola lapha Event iFootball Association lapho khona ke yena ke mengameli wayo lenhlangano lapha Event Peter Samuel Simelane akayinaye ke umphathi wayo lenhlangano Frederick Mgomezulu bathula khona umbiko ukuthi ingabe vele iretreat noma umhlangano laba benawo ke babuholi bayo lenhlangano evikini leliphelile kusuka ngalesine kude kuba ngumgcibelo ikakhulu kade ke tindzaba letitsinza lona likhethelo lesive hlangu semnikati indlela lelidlala ngayo kube netinguquko ke labatendile labaphume nato kulomhlangano letisho ukuthi vele mhlambe umceceshi Dominic Kunene angasekelwa ngubani.
Bese siyabuka lokuthi singenta njani lokuthi vele siperforme ngconywana kwase kuyabonakala ukuthi maybe le technical team ifuna ukuthi iboostwe kancane sase siyabona ke ukuthi maybe indlela kuyibooster kwanyalo ngokuthi sirophe in 2 assistant coaches to assist Dominic lawo ma assistant coaches mo Ernest Mavuso na Neuro Ntimane.
Kanzi-ke kulomhlangano yena umphathi wayo inhlangano engamelelo umdlalo lapha Event Frederick Mgomezulu uvetile ukuthi engathi balandzeli bemidlalo webhola sebata ukhona kuhlala kahle mhlambe kuleti nkundla letakhiwa ngiyo iFootball Association letifaka ikalanga Technical Center.
Kube khona ukukhala lokuba khona kalanga kutawubuketwa nakhona ukuthi kungete kwakhiwa yini indzawo yokuhlala lencane nje ukuthi sive lesibukela ibhola kube khona lapho sihleli khona. Itawuqala iyincane kuye ngeminyaka ikhulise kancane kancane izifike kumbe esigabeni lesingajabulisa wonke umuntu lokhona ebholeni.
Umphathi wayo lenhlangano lengamela umdlalo webhola lapha eVeni asaphetha nje uvetile ukuthi kulokunye utaba nelibandla-ke lelitawubuka umsebenzi wabo coach ukuthi ingabe vele baceceshi balolonga kahle yini badlali emacenjini. Phindze kubukwe-ke nemsebenzi wabo bonompembe ukuthi ingabe vele lapha etinkundleni basaqhuba yona imidlalo basebenta kahle. Siyethemba ukuthi tona leti nguquko noma lo mhlangano lababuya kuwo utatenda tinguquko ikakhulukati ekhethelweni lesive sihlangu semnikati. Lobikela umsakazo Eswatini TV temidlalo Linda Dlamini Esgwaca House eMbabane.
Alitoya temidlalo sijibeka lapho tindzaba tetfu teSwati hlala nathi ungayendzawo sanishine simo selitulu siyabuya khona manje. Welcome back. Sakuvusela nalo sandzako sivulele as mentioned earlier ukuthi sidawuphinze sibuye and we shall cross over to my colleague Sifisa Nxumalo lapha eBus Rank edolobheni kubuka nje simo ukuthi ingabe kuvula kwetikolwa kuhamba kanjani kubuka nje siphithiphithi kanye nekhulumisana nabothishela-nhloko betikolwa letahlukahlukene. Over to you Sifisa, kuhamba kanjani lapha eBus Rank?
Fombeni, just a quick correction there. Bese siyasuka eBus Rank sathi asiphakamise nje tinyawo sigijimele lapha esikolweni lesiphakeme saka Boys. Utawukhumbula ukuthi around January 8 na January 9 ema headlines nje beka veta lokuthi kunetikolo letikhona lapha kaNgwane ndakubekisela nje shiselweni kunesikolo lesiphakeme Evelyn Bering High School lana eMbabane ke kuneka Boys High School, which is one of the schools that ihlale in demand for batale ekuthenini bafise ukuthi bantfu babo bayeke awufunza khona. Over 300 parents nebantfu babo bebalapha egedeni just a few days ago babafunela indzawo. Head teacher wakhona ke Steven Shabangu wakuveta nje wakubeka ngembaba, walibeka ngembaba ekuthenini angeke ayithathe imali ye drink kungenisa umfana lana utawuba ethical, umfana lana utawungena by merit. Lesikutfolako ke sisafika lana ukuthi yes bantfwana basengafiki kakhulu njengoba vele kusesekuseni kakhulu nabothishela kwana nawo basengafiki kakhulu, but nje perhaps asengikubisele emva kancane edolobheni singafiki lana sikhonile off air ukukhulumisana nalabachubha wona emakhumbi nemabhasi. Excitement yabo ifana nebantfana nje ekuthenini bathi this is very good for business. The past few days were a bit devastating. Imoto bese ihlala lapha eBus Rank imhlala nje noma 20 minutes ingakagcwali nyalo leyo 20 minutes so translated to 2 minutes imoto igcwele iyaphuma kulandzela lenye, which is also good for business in the grand scheme of things. But ke sesibuya lapha ka Boys, I'm excited ukuthi nje nangifika lana ngiyamthola umfundzi lo sobe wekucala kufika lapha esikolweni ufike lo kwa ngetingwete kungathi usebenta ka Kusile breakfast show impela lungelela. I do want to talk to him. Samkeliso Motha, lone excitement lenkhulu. Samkeliso, kufika kwakho esikolweni encenye nje usachazela mina nembukeli ekhaya engabe kupropelwa yini, maybe utasitshela ukuthi wenda class banyalo.
njengoba sebangibili ngisambeli somotha nga form 5.
Okay, you're doing Form 5. It is a big year for you. Utaba ngulo nje lotaba lapha kule list etawuthi class of 2024. How excited are you for the opening of schools regarding indzaba yokuthi vele sengumnyaka wakho wekugcina high school?
It's definitely a mixed feelings because Form 5 critical. I'm excited, but for the journey, I don't think I am. I'm a bit scared, but
yeah. But sixoxile off camera, you are umfundzi lotimisela kakhulu. Some of the trick questions bengikubuta wona kubuka nje ukuthi engabe tikhona intintfo letikuphathamisako usafundza letfaka kakhulu kuba online kubo internet uvele wangitshalo ukuthi tintfo leto longatendi kakhulu kudadisha intfo loyitsandzako. Just tell us about kutimisela kwakho lonyaka indzaba yekudadisha your commitment levels atawuba ngakanani.
no, my commitment levels atoba sedu. Definitely cell phone itayibeka eceleni. Definitely lokugela bathi mantfombatane nako eceleni. Definitely ekhaya vele cha abangifune mantfombatane, so my commitment levels atoba setulu. I'll focus kakhulu esikolweni, my books, my studies, and make sure that I improve. If not by 1%, by 0.5%, but still it's improvement. Yes.
Yeah, Samgeliso ngiyafuna kuva ukuthi I know ukuthi nawufika kubo Form 5. Mina nje 10 years ago I completed my Form 5. You're completing yours 2024, mine was 2014. I do want to get a sense of ukuthi do you have maybe ngathini so ubhalile in maybe passing vision board yakho ukuthi this is what I want to study perhaps at tertiary. Mina nje bese ngadi nanga Form 5. Do you know what you want to do? What do you specialize in Rinyalo ka Form 5 at Tifundweni?
Yes. Although I don't have a vision board, but I have it in mind.
Okay.
IT, definitely. That's like one of the most good things. I'm like, I'm very good in IT. Okay. Very good. So definitely no brainer.
Yeah. Samgeliso Motha Bonkhosi uthi utawufuna kuyawufundzela tebuchwephesha lokutasita kakhulu utawukhumbula mbukeliwe Kusile breakfast show ukuthi elihlelweni just the angithi ngalesine evikini leliphelile sibe nabo labete kutasikhulumisa ngato tebuchwephesha ekuthenini 80% in fact 90% of imisebenzi in the next 5 to 10 years atawube IT based lokusho ukuthi ke lama skills lathi ufuna kuyawaacquireisha Motha nakacetsa sikolwa ngilawo latakhona kumfaka into the labor market, into the job market abe in demand. Simfisela inhlanhla. We do lungelele want to speak to the head teacher Babe Shabangu nakafika lapha esikolweni, and perhaps some of the other students nanabo laba excited just as Samgeliso Motha so very early bird lomuhla ekseni sitawuphinze sibuye kuwe e-studio lungelele. Siyabonga.
All right, Sibonga kakhulu Sifiso Mbuyele, that was my co-host Sifiso ulapha esikoleni esiphakeme Boys High School Style. Thina sibuya kuye sesama ukuthi utabiseka itishela Nhloko waso sikole. Second break nasibuya silabe sikhulumisana naNdo Mdlalose. Welcome back. Sakuvusela nolosandza kusivulela lamuhla on the show sibuke nje kakhulu i-back to school ngalokho sivele tikola lomuhla tiyavulwa. We will see beke ukukhulumisana nandomdlalo esize clinical psychologist lomhla sibuke nje ama-tips on how to support children's mental health. Sakumele ukuthi labanye abamfana bayocala tikolo letintsha, labanye bayocala ama-grades lamasha nabafundi abangabadi, so lokho kubavulela amathuba ukuthi sokwenzeka ukuthi sebayahlukubedwa esikolweni sebayabhulishwa. Sifuna ukuva ukuthi engabe batali, what are the signs or symptoms to look out for ukuthi umfanami mhlambe uyahlukubedeka esikolweni and bangabasita kanjani, nekuba nje ukuthi vele kumcwangana ukuthi mental health yemfana ebengileyo le kahle. I'm joined by Ndomdlalo, so as a clinical psychologist kusichaza nje ukuthi vele ingqondo yemfana isebenta kanjani. Good morning Ndo, thank you for joining us this morning. Setikola setivuliwe siphithiphithi sesicalile and there's a lot for parents to look out for kubamfa babo, because kumcwa ukuthi ibe khona le open communication between parent and a child ukuthi umfana tokhona kufundza kahle esikolweni. Kuva nje ukuthi vele how important is it ukuthi mental health yemfana ihlale right kodwa tokhona focus na esikolweni abe right esikolweni nasekhaya abe kahle.
Definitely ngiyabonga amasatla amahle, ngiyavusela phindze futhi ngicela kubongela bonke abafundi that are able ke esikolweni namuhla. Kubhlungu ukuthi bakhona labanye bebatibona nabo babuyele esikolweni namuhla, but akukendeki kanjalo ngetizathu etithiti letiningi that are beyond their control. So I would like to congratulate all parents, all teachers, all children that made it possible ukuthi namhla balikhona ukulibona lelanga lanamuhla and be able to go to class. In mental health, I'll take emagama aka World Health Organization lathi there is no health without mental health. So kuqala engqondweni vele before umtimba akhone kusebenta wonke. Siyacela kakhulu kubatali ukuthi bantwa bethu I'm a parent as well, and my children actually that side. Bese sithethisa nekusena sabona amasokisi, sikapteni sibekile itolo. Lomunye sowuvukile ebusuku usudlela okunye kwalomunye. You know, it's just crazy. But asitibambe sebatali, nathi sine anxiety, nathi we have to go to work, nathi we have so many other things to do. Sinetikweleti, botishela nabo are giving us a hard time with all the rules. But for today, can we please make this about the child? This has to be about the child today. This has to be a memorable day for the child. I'm starting a new life. I'm continuing with the journey of my future. He's in Form 5. I'm not downplaying him, but who said the vision board? And that is what, as parents and as teachers, they must mentally know, why am I doing this? There should be an end product. So from grade 00 abati, that's why most young kids, as they get to primary, then high school, varsity, a bit, more specific. So can we please put a vision on our children? Let them go to school knowing what bayokwendan, bayokupa in, let go little batolkupa batalendani, not just because batal batang eskolwen, not just because hulmende usasi eskolwen. And you touched on a very, very important one, bullying. Oh my goodness, we have had last year on its own a number, I will not say it, but a huge number of para-suicide attempts. Might have tried to kill themselves because they can't take it anymore from bullying at school. Bantwana bayaqalwa ngetinhloko tabo letinkulu, labanye abakakhoni ukugwaca full tisha namhla kuvula tikolwa, labanye uniform ayikapheleli, bagcoke lokungasiko, labanye balambile, labanye beta ngetinyawo. You know, there are so many things, and I'm not too sure our education sector ukuthi bantwana basaphinza yini, but labanye batobuyela back in different grades, and in high school labanye mhlawumbe it's wrong but bayakwenda sebayajola, And last year kwavala by-item ngema-holidays kwindekateka namhla but soruthola i-form 1 le nhlale fresh wena sebakulahlile. There's so much ridiculing that is going to be happening today. Ngiyanicela abantu abami lokho ukuthi please know ukuthi what you're going to say to the next person that is negative will stick into their mentality and may harm you tomorrow, or your children or your family, because they're going to believe what you're saying. So le GBV lesikhuluma ngayo, gender based violence, ekhaya siyibuke ngathi ngibabi ushaya make uhlukubeta babe, nathi lokhu sihlukubetana esikolweni siqalo se-GBV. So we should put an end to bullying. Just think of yourself. If you tell somebody, "Maye sibe lesicafulo sakho, maye ku fake loku," how would you feel if someone else would say that about you? And then we go to the teachers. Siyacela bothishela, I know it's a crazy day today. Kuyaregistrwa abantwana abanye bethethe incwadi, labanye banjani. Let's it will be chaotic. Let's prepare ourselves for that chaos so that we don't find ourselves snapping on the children. We don't find ourselves saying negative things on the children. Already so destroyed future loyo mbana loyo. Besibukela futhi etindzabeni bantwana labanye basangayithola indzawo yesikolo. And for many reasons. Baningi labashonelwe batali, they've had to relocate. Baningi batali labaphelelwe ngumsebenzi, sebayothutha abantwana baye emakhaya, something that they're not used to. Adjustment, there is something called adjustment disorder. They have to, or culture shock, kuyashaywana lana, we didn't know. Labanye, umlungu khuluma isingisi, ivenek, there's just so much. Can we just bring in the peace? Bring in the vision. We are not here to ridicule. We are not here to break. We are here to build a beautiful future which will benefit you and I, and you and your children in the future.
Yeah. So ndokubuda nje ukuthi ngalokho sivele sifuna ukuthi mental health yabantwana ibe ngilele right ukuthi bakhona ukufunda kahle. So how then do parents are supposed to talk to their children? Kumele babakhulumisa kanjani? Ukuthi batobona ukuthi hayi lana ngathi kunenkinga, ngathi akaphathe kahle esikolweni. What approach are parents supposed to use labakhulumisana nabantwana babo?
Yeah. Like I am confessing, we drove very quickly to come here, and obviously I was upset, I was angry, I was agitated, and I wish I could have said those words, but thank God, my children, for instance, are starting new schools, bonke, and mom being angry, mom being anxious, mom being career focused, ngalana ngigcoka bangimake, ngalana ngi-psychologist, ngalana ngingilokhu. It's too heavy on me, but the children first. I have to have emotional intelligence and understand, because if I say kumbana Muslim, abocabangani wena vele. Docabangani esikoleni. We have to motivate them even if they've done wrong. It's the first day, and I always want to say, many of us as parents, we feel like failures. We did not do all the things that we wanted to do for our children. But can we not punish ourselves through the children?
Yeah.
Let us work on ourselves and make sure that tomorrow will be a better day. Lungakahambi kahle namuhla, labanye abantwana bayakhala, bafunika esikolweni, kunjani. Just go down to their level, ukuce phasi, mpanami, go to school, you'll meet friends, a lot of them will be so scared and panicky, but be with them. Remember, beautiful words, your friends will love you. And nagabuye esikolweni, if only we could make this a public holiday to wait and see kuhambe njani. How was school? No one wanted to be my friend. Bahlekise ngami, bathi ngimfisha, bathi ngimutse kakhulu, bathi ngisidudla, bathi ngimutse, whatever. And then find positive words to erase loku labakushito lesikolweni. Umntwana kusasa atokhona ukuthi yes ngisidudla manje kusho ukuthi ekhaya kithi siyadla. It is what the parent is going to feed the child. But if nawe ungumdala utshela umntwana wakho ukuthi vele ungebelele, vele unjena awukaceba umphethe, awukagezi, it will only reinforce what the teacher or the other bullies will say at school.
Yeah, and also the
So-
daily routine, school day routine. Lokuthi nje uyi-check nawe esikoleni hambe kanjani, do you have any homework, do you
Absolutely.
need help with your homework,
Absolutely.
you know, naloku does it help?
A lot of us think that kwabotishela, umsebenzi abotishela. No. Check your child's work. And in most schools, kula malanga, tishela sign homework, now umdala, you have to sign the homework. We know we have to work hard. Sibuye ekhaya sidiniwe, our children have to read to us. Neka basikhombise homework, mhlambe some of us are illiterate, asikafunzi kwananathi, but sitofunza through lo mntwana asifundzisa ukuthi kwendekeni, and it's even more motivating for the child ukuthi how baba namhla ufunze nge-climate change, for instance, because of me. And nawe ungibabe ungimake uyadiva ema-benefits e-school fees esakho ukuthi oh ngisebenzela kangaka nje umfana nami ngiyambona likusasa litawuhluka kunelami. So batali, please let's get involved, singashi bothishela noma umfana khona kanesikhalo, bothishela are there for that. And noma ngabe umfana unemanga, find ukuthi ucambelani lamanga, ufihlani behind. That is where mental health comes in. That is where a psychologist come in to come and talk. Umfana azakhona ukukhuluma iqiniso, because bantwana kakhulu ngibo la sibabita ngekuthi bayi-presenting problem. Ngibo la bafike bangaconsi bayikhombisa indlela ukuthi ekhaya siphile kanjani. So as teachers, umbani lobo kumshaya ukuthi unani wena lokungalaleli, unani wena lokulala classini, kunjani. Take your time as a teacher. Find out. Maybe the problem is at home. And then you refer, because umfana is going to transfer the thing ekhaya onto labangangaye, agcine ayibully, agcine whatsoever because of what is happening at home. So as before we reprimand, let us first sit, talk, understand.
So basically
Then
it's just communication, open communication with your child.
Open communication, and children kula malanga, they do talk. They do express their feelings. Let's understand how they feel. Let's understand what they want to do and how they think things can be done. Engage the parents, engage the school, engage everybody. Mental health, psychological wellness, nekuba slow learner, kunema learning disorders, labanye banabo dyslexia, labanye banabo autism, labanye ba left-handed, kuningi lokuba khona that we feel like kurong. No, it's a mental condition which can be sorted or cannot be sorted but understood, and when they were in a makeshift. I'm left-handed, for example, which means I'm right-brained. So when I'm left-handed, you can't force me to use my right hand because I cannot use my right brain when I'm using my right hand. So seba confuse labantwana even more. So let us get more psychoeducation on managing children's emotional intelligence.
All right. No, thank you so much for joining us. And also, Tsemokuthi Batale will take that advice that you're giving to them. Lamhlekse and Mbugeli. Sasibule Guyo, my colleagues, Fiso, Ukona, Eskoleni Esiphakeme, Gaboys. Mguni, kamba kanjani?
Lungelele, we were just looking to wrap up our, stay here lapha kaBoys siqhubekele kulesinye isikolo, but on our way out sabona two girls bangena lapha esikoleni. Sathi ke in the spirit of inclusion njengoba bese simkhulumisile wesilisa nanabo asesiba khulumise nje sibeve excitement yabo baseta esikoleni engcenye batasivusela bona basitshele amagama abo nokuthi kuvula kwesikole aba excited kangakanani ngakho.
Hello, my name is Vuyagazi Dlamini. I'm doing Form 5 here at Aga Boys High School, and I'm really excited to be here. I was really looking forward to coming back to school since this is my last year after all.
Yeah. You sound like bosovele ushaye countdown yekubuya esikolweni Vuyagazi.
Yes, I mean, this is my last year, so
Yeah.
obviously.
As it is your last year, I can imagine the stress maybe that you may have regarding subjects that you probably, struggle with, and maybe you're excited about those that, labalula, now safunza eskolweni. How do you, plan to find the balance between the subjects lokhonako kuwapasa kahle to maintain, that sustainable cadence in terms of kuwapasa and perhaps improving kuleti lobo ukhanza kutsi ngathi khona uyasokosokola khona?
I think I'm just going to continue working hard on the subjects that I'm good at, and then on improving on the subject that I find difficulties in, I'm going to use past papers and maybe attend some online extra classes.
Yeah. Good luck, Vuyokazi, as you do your Form 5. Let's talk to your friend here, Vuyokazi Lotena. Yeah, we saw you walking in with Vuyokazi. Now it's also to introduce her. What grade are you doing? What is your name? How excited are you?
Yes, my name is Sivia Dlamini, and I'm doing Form 1 here at Boys High School. I was really excited to come here because, I've been hearing a lot of things about high school, so I was excited. I'm just excited to experience what I'll be hearing.
Yeah. Ngabe Dlamini Nkosi usangena nje khona high school, what are your goals really? Usangena khona ka Boys is known as the top performing schools, and I can imagine maybe the pressure that you may have ekuthenini nawe you want to be amongst those, top performers.
My goal this year is to be a good girl and to aim high grades.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that, being a good girl. But I do see another one that seems to have an interest. What is your name? I may have to bend a little bit here just to match our height here. What's your name?
My name is Bandiswa Msibi.
Okay. Ndlondlo bashise. Ngabe wenda form bani wena? Excited kangakanani kubuya esikolweni? Athini ama goals akho lo nyaka?
I'm a little bit nervous because I'm doing my first year in Form 1.
What are your goals? Nje usangena ka Boys?
I want to reach the last grade.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Ndlondlo Bashise, we just spoke to three, girls here. Laba excited kakhulu kungena esikolweni, but lo wakamsivi yena uthi she's just a bit nervous. So we do hope ukuthi utawuba integrated kahle lapha esikolweni and find a new friend. What we did get from Siviwe and Vuyokazi ukuthi nabo they just met this morning, Baba Dlamini bobabili, and that has helped Siviwe a great deal. Ekuthenini abebede emahloni, maybe sitabashiya nje ne-advice ekuthenini phela salo bahamba naye endlondlo nanaye babe bobathathu angabi yedwa laphayana atawuphela nanga emahloni lathi unawo. Back to you, Lulu, sitaqhubekela embili siyobuka letinye isikolo.
Alright, sibonga Mnguni, kubonga ngathi bafundisi bavele ba-ready ukucala wona umnyaka wa 2024 esikoleni saphinde sibuye kuye uMnguni nakuphela tindzaba tesingisi. 2 minutes before 7, the second break sibuye sasa tindzaba tesingisi.
Umsakato wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eVeni.
Ngephansi kwalo mgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letiya ngaleso sikhatsi, tindzaba letite magama lacosheme, letitsembekile, letitsintsa tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni.
Kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele, siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulo msakato siphinde sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lotiletselwa ngumsakato wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Welcome back. It's a minute after 7. Let's take a look at our English news. The chairperson of the G77 Plus China Group, who is also Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, has promised to engage his counterparts, especially African leaders, whose countries are at war and those engulfed by conflicts. The father of the East African region says without peace, Africa will continue to struggle. Museveni was speaking during the official closing of the G77 Plus China Summit in Uganda. His Majesty King Mswati III was represented by the Prime Minister, His Excellency Russell Dlamini, at the summit.
The third G77 plus China summit has come to an end here in Kampala, Uganda. Speaking during the closing ceremony, Ugandan President, who is the current chairperson of the group, Yoweri Museveni, emphasized the importance of collaboration among the G77 plus China members. The father of the East African region says the time has come for Africa to trade amongst itself and stop buying services and goods from Western countries who buy little from Africa. Museveni says members of the G77 plus China must take advantage of the non-aligned movement countries and collaborate with those. He says during his chairmanship, we will focus more on production of goods and services, finding African and overseas markets. Museveni says the linkage of the goods and services with the consumer is also very vital. Hence, he will ensure that infrastructure improves in Africa and amongst the G77 plus China and from the NAM countries. Museveni says G77 plus China members can collaborate with other countries just like Uganda did with China and Indonesia. He says those countries helped Uganda in setting up technology firms and textile industries. He says their Indonesian friends helped them to transform the agriculture sector like banana, and now Uganda is the second largest producer of banana worldwide. Museveni says in order to achieve all this and leave no one behind, there must be peace in Africa and in those members of the G77 plus China who currently have conflicts. He says without peace, there is no development that will take place, and Africa especially will always lag behind in terms of development. The chairperson promised to engage his counterparts from countries where they are currently engulfed by conflicts. The chairperson then adjourned the summit. At the summit, His Majesty King Mswati III was represented by the Prime Minister, His Excellency Russell Dlamini. For Eswatini TV News, I am Linton Gule in Kampala, Uganda.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Thuli Dladla, says that DRC's newly sworn-in President Felix Tshisekedi was happy to have received well wishes from His Majesty King Mswati III during his inauguration. The DPM had represented His Majesty during President Tshisekedi's inauguration over the weekend.
Speaking during her arrival at Ngwenya Border Gate, where she had represented His Majesty the King during the inauguration of DRC President Felix Tshisekedi, the Deputy Prime Minister Honorable Thuli Dladla says the inauguration went very well and was well attended by many people, where the stadium was filled to capacity. She says the event was well attended as well by SADC head of states and those representing some head of states.
Nomsebenzi wakhe wabamhle kakhulu. Sibonga nje ngwenyameni ukuthi naloku sikhathi besisifisha ngaphela sathi ukuthi uwine ngayitolo ngakusasa sekufanele ukuthi masinyane abekwe ngalokusemthethweni. So kwagijinywa vele sekubhudelwa.
It was an honor for me to represent His Majesty during the inauguration of the President. You will recall that Eswatini and the DRC have long-lasting diplomatic relations, which is why we were there. Members from the African Union were also present. I got the opportunity to meet the President, and as soon as he recognized me, he warmly welcomed me and we shook hands. He was so happy to see us, and indeed we passed His Majesty's well wishes. According to the constitution of that country, it allows the president to stand for another term as president.
According to the Elections Commission of the DRC, the president won the elections by over 70%. He's taking the presidency seat for the second time. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi, Ngwenya.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Thuli Dladla, says government is quite aware of problems in schools, especially with regards to the payment of overseas. She says every child must go to school.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Thuli Dladla, says government is well aware of challenges faced by schools with regards to the payment of overseas fees, which results in schools not meeting their daily needs. She says government is addressing such challenges.
Laba labangathathi bantwana babamikise esikolweni kulicala nekuyekelela umntwana ehla enyuka estradini angayisikolweni kulicala.
Every child has the right to go to school and must be at school. Failure to send children to school is a criminal offense as they will be deprived of education. On the issue of late payment of fees, we truly understand the situation and we are working on fast-tracking the payments and adding the amount that government pays. We receive a high number of overseas, as in some cases, the parents will be alive but will not have any source of income, so they come through as well and see if their children qualify. This week, as the cabinet, will divide ourselves and visit schools so that we assess the situation in schools and see the problems and take it from there, and also see if we still provide quality and relevant education.
She asks parents who can pay for their children to do so rather than leaving all to government. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi, Ngwenya.
On another note, the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Thuli Dladla, says government is doing all she can to ensure that schools that were damaged by storms are renovated. The DPM says this week government will be working on that.
Issue of schools that were damaged by storms, the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Thuli Dladla, says government through micro-projects is currently renovating affected schools. She says she had also visited Mhope High School, which was one school that was affected, and witnessed the situation herself.
Micro-project nje useti kwato ngeke ngahamba ngabheka ngalapha ngoba bengubonile umhube uthi unakale kangakanani ngile ke ngakhona ngakhanza ukuthi bebangakacali ngathi uma ngumthinsa minister ka education washo ukuthi bathi macro project is on the ground nangembala ngathi uma ngibuya ngakhanza sebasetule emathayileni batisebenda leto likolo ngilokunye nako lokho lisitakubuka kuleli viki ezisihamba sibona letikolo.
She pleads with schools to be patient while government is working around the clock to ensure that learners are back in class. Reporting, I am Kian Msibi, Ngwenya.
The Minister of Education and Training, Honorable Owen Nxumalo, says it's all systems go for the opening of schools today. Speaking at his offices in Babane, the minister said they are hoping that schools in the whole region that have not received all the necessary working tools and finances will be sorted by this week.
Laba labasangatitholi bakaho ngokusibaletha lama records late kepha nakhona info leta usheshe yendeke.
We have ensured that all schools are supplied with stationery, food, and free primary education fees. What worries us is schools that are affected by the recent storms, like Mhope High School. We have, however, ensured that micro-project stays on the ground and tries to rebuild where there has been damage. Schools in the whole region have not received everything they need because of delays in submission of necessary documents. However, this will be sorted this week.
Swazi Farm Wholesalers has donated medical drugs worth 1.8 million emalangeni to the Ministry of Health. The donation was received by the Minister of Health, Mduduzi Mathebula, who was represented by the Principal Secretary Kanya Mabuza.
Speaking during the handover ceremony held at Swazi Farm Wholesale in Matapa, Swazi Farm Director Karim Ashraf said the wholesale has the capacity to support the government solve the drug shortage issue, as Swazi Farm is going to destroy medical suppliers worth 20 million in Malangeni that has expired.
Swazi Farm can confirm it is going to destroy medical supplies worth 20 million because it has been sitting at our warehouse until it got expired. Swazi Farm is preparing to burn the expired medical drugs. A stock of close to 2 million will be expiring by the end of this year, 2024. In stock, we still have more medical drugs and medical supplies worth more than 50 million waiting for government to make orders through the tender that still exists in our favor to save Swazis.
Receiving the donation on behalf of the government, the Minister of Health, the Honorable Mduduzi Mathebula, represented by the PS Kanya Mabuza, said the government is currently strengthening medical supply systems.
We are working day and night to strengthen the systems. It's a problem that has been going on for years. It could not be solved overnight. The minister stepped up efforts to address these issues of shortages through implementing several strategies, ideas that include short-term, fixing the problem that we are facing at hand, and are also developing long-term approaches. I'm confident that with this team, we are all working collectively with other ministries to ensure that the challenges that the country is facing will be a thing of the past.
The Minister of Health says the drug shortage issue will definitely start to show improvement by the beginning of the next quarter. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Zimuva Shongwe Matapa.
The country's reserves and the economy is said to improve after the receipts from the Southern African Customs Union. The governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Nisi, said this when explaining how the SACCO receipts will be of benefit to the country's economy.
The Minister of Finance recently announced that 13.06 billion emalangeni SACCO receipts. We asked the Governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Nisi, on what impact will the money have on the country's economy.
We believe it to be a booster, especially to government, to attend to some lagging and aging infrastructure. So we believe that government will apply these resources, especially to capital projects which have got a potential of contributing to economic growth. We are also optimistic that the minister and cabinet and government will consider bolstering the stabilization fund, because that is the ability to deal with the fluctuations that we see in the SACCO receipts. And consequently, when this happens, it got a positive effect to our reserves.
Eswatini received 11.75 billion emalangeni last year in SACCO receipts. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
The Eswatini Communications Commission says there is a low level of appreciation in data protection in the country. This was said by Eskom Data Protection Manager Celo Simelane during the commencement of the National Data Protection Awareness Week.
The Data Protection Awareness Week is recognized from January 22nd to the 28th, raising awareness about the importance of the rights of privacy, and the Kingdom of Eswatini will be commemorating this week for the first time this year, now that the Data Protection Act has been enacted. Eswatini Communications Commission Data Protection Manager Celo Simelane highlighted existing gaps on data protection in the country.
The gaps that we've also noticed is that there seems to be a low level of appreciation in terms of how much information you can take out to the public, how much information of your personal information you would want to be publicized. People are still publicizing information that we also consider to be sensitive about themselves. But you would find it out there in the papers, you'd find it out there in social media platforms. So the theme for today is that take control of your data. It's up to you what you want to take out there to the public. But again, the law places an onerous obligation on the data controllers or the data processors, which are the companies or the businesses that hold our data. It gives them, or it provides for certain legal bases under which you can process personal information and under which you can disclose personal information.
All week long, the Eswatini Communications Commission will be raising awareness about data protection in commemoration of the said week. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samgal Suekoza with Zimuva Shongwe Babane.
And in international news, Israeli planes resumed heavy bombing on Khan Yunis in the south of the Gaza Strip over the weekend, as Palestinian health officials said the death toll from Israeli strikes since war broke out in October had passed 25,000. Viewer discretion is advised on the following story.
Rafah in southern Gaza. Palestinians are preparing to bury 4 people killed when a car was hit by an Israeli airstrike. It's a scene now familiar to many as Israel presses ahead with its military offensive.
I was coming from Jabalia, and on the way there were airstrikes. In Khan Yunis there was a strike too. I finally arrived in Rafah, and when I went looking for food for my children, there was another one. Where's the security the Israelis are talking about?
According to Hamas, more than 25,100 people have been killed since the start of the war. The Israeli military is now focusing its firepower in and around Khan Yunis. Earlier, it published footage of a tunnel it said it had discovered in the city, claiming that hostages had been held there. It said its soldiers had found these drawings by an Israeli child, kidnapped on October 7th.
The soldiers entered the tunnel where they came face to face with the terrorists. They fought and killed them. Inside the tunnel, there weren't any hostages, but they had been held there earlier.
For now, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there's still more fighting to be done in Gaza. He's also repeated his opposition to the creation of a Palestinian state once the conflict ends, publicly rejecting Washington's push for Palestinian sovereignty.
The Hamas militant group said on Sunday the October 7th attacks that led to war with Israel were a necessary step, but chaos had led to faults in the operation as it released its own report on what it calls Operation Al-Qasr Flood.
16 pages long and distributed in Arabic and English, this is the Hamas report. In this document, entitled Our Narrative, the Palestinian movement presents its Al-Aqsa flood operation as a necessary step and normal response to the Israeli occupation. But for the first time, the group also acknowledges certain wrongs.
Maybe some faults happened during Operation Al-Aqsa Flood's implementation due to the rapid collapse of the Israeli security and military system and the chaos caused along the border areas with Gaza.
According to Hamas, the October 7 attacks were not aimed at Israeli civilians. Yet Israeli civilians made up the majority of the some 1,140 victims of the operation. The group is also calling for an end to the Israeli offensive in the Gaza Strip in exchange for the release of the remaining hostages. In the wake of the report's publication, Benjamin Netanyahu categorically refused Hamas's demands.
Hamas demands the end of the war, the withdrawal of our forces from Gaza, the release of all the murderers and rapists, and leaving Hamas intact. If we were to accept this, our soldiers would have fallen in vain.
But more than 100 days after October 7, the hostages' relatives are putting pressure on the government. They are calling for an agreement to allow their release.
We demand that the government do its part, bring a deal, get the deal done, and bring home the remaining hostages alive.
In Brussels on Monday, European foreign ministers will meet separately with their Israeli and Palestinian counterparts to discuss a roadmap to peace in the conflict.
Pressure is mounting on Israel and its main ally, the US, as humanitarian officials say Gaza's health system is collapsing under the weight of tens of thousands of casualties, and the European Union Parliament passes a ceasefire resolution.
The U.S. support of Israel as it continues its operation to eliminate Hamas has had global fallout, with the European Parliament on Thursday handily passing a resolution that calls for a permanent ceasefire on the condition that the Hamas militant group be eliminated and that its hostages be released.
La votazione è aperta.
The vote is open.
La votazione è chiusa.
The vote is closed.
Ed è approvata.
It is approved.
President Joe Biden, who has resisted calls for a ceasefire, said Thursday, "We've got a long way to go in the conflict." And while Israel's president acknowledged that the operation has harshly affected the 2 million residents of Gaza, he says Israel has no choice but to continue.
I'm not shying away from the human tragedy in Gaza. And you want to know something? We care. We care. It is painful for us that our neighbors are suffering so much. But how else can we defend ourselves if our enemies decided to entrench themselves in an infrastructure of terror of unbelievable size?
Analysts say Washington's support of Israel's operations, which have caused tens of thousands of casualties, has absolutely diminished its global standing.
Today, the United States is even more isolated on the issue of Gaza at the UN, at the General Assembly, than Russia was 2 years ago.
This has stymied U.S. efforts in other areas, such as its attempt to rally longtime allies to act against Houthi rebels attacking commercial vessels on the Red Sea.
Then the only major country that remained in the coalition was the United Kingdom. The other countries like France, Spain, Italy dropped out. And this again shows how much weakened America's convening power has become because of profound policy disagreements that now exist between the United States and some of its closest allies.
And it has emboldened those who have long complained about U.S. hegemony, such as South Africa, which earlier this month sued Israel for genocide in the International Court of Justice.
We condemn in the strongest terms the appalling slaughter and genocide of the people of Palestine that is being perpetrated in Gaza and the West Bank.
In coming days, South Africa will be among 120 delegations meeting in Uganda for a summit of the non-aligned movement, which are nations not formally aligned with or against any major power bloc. Those who watch international bodies closely say this hurts the U.S. too.
By indicating that it is willing to, change the course of global will, when it's interested in protecting Israel, the U.S. actually stands to delegitimize those institutions, to essentially say these institutions are nothing more than a tool of great power politics.
Meanwhile, as this debate rages, this is Gaza.
Russian immigrants in many countries hit the streets on Sunday protesting on the 3-year anniversary of the imprisonment of Russia's best-known opposition leader, Alexei Navalny.
More than 250 people gathered in Beverly Hills in Los Angeles to protest the imprisonment of Alexei Navalny, the main opponent and outspoken critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Navalny was arrested 3 years ago and has faced several sentencing since then. Antonina Zemlinskaya, who organized the protest, says the charges against Navalny are politically motivated.
He was opposing Putin, his gangster rule, corruption. He never called to overthrow the government. He called for the democratic way to re-elect somebody who is not Putin. But he was sent to prison as an extremist. They gave him 19 years.
Navalny was already serving a 9-year term on fraud and embezzlement charges when in August 2023, he was sentenced to the additional years for extremism. The United States has called for Navalny's immediate release, with the State Department saying in a statement, Russian authorities illustrated yet again both the baselessness of their case and the lack of due process afforded to those who dare to criticize the regime. Last December, Navalny disappeared from the public eye. 2 weeks later, it was revealed that he was transferred to a remote penal colony in the Arctic. The Kremlin has refused comment on Navalny's case. Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters in response to a U.S. State Department comment that we are talking about a prisoner who has been found guilty under the law and is serving his sentence. And here we consider any interference by anyone, including the U.S., as unacceptable and impossible. Anastasia Kornienko from the Siberian city of Omsk came to the U.S. seeking refuge 3 months ago. She says she was detained for participation in the various opposition protests in Russia herself and barely escaped imprisonment.
I exchange letters with political prisoners back home. A lot of cases are fabricated. People didn't do anything wrong. Just post online against the war. They're taken to prison away from their families and friends. There are a lot of stories like this.
The Memorial Human Rights Defense Center, an international human rights organization and 2022 Nobel Peace Prize winner, counted 604 political prisoners in Russia as of October, more than triple the number in 2018 when it listed 183. Another political refugee from Russia, Yulia Pahamova, came to the protest to support Russian artist and activist Alexandra Skochelenko, who was sentenced to 7 years of prison for advocating against the war in Ukraine.
She replaced price tags on products in the store. This way, she wanted to attract attention of regular people who every day come to the store, like grandmothers, who can't get the credible information because they don't use the internet. Also, they listen to the Russian propaganda TV. But this way they can know why prices are so high in the stores. She wrote next to the price tags that prices are so high because Putin started a bloody war in Ukraine.
The protests, organized by Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation, took place in 120 cities worldwide. Participants chanted the slogan, "Russia without Putin." Putin is running for re-election in March. He has been either president or prime minister of Russia since 2000.
The small northeastern U.S. state of New Hampshire holds its presidential primary on Tuesday. The state takes on added interest with Sunday's news that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis ended his campaign, making it a two-person Republican contest.
Biden. Not what you'd expect to hear hours before a presidential primary. But this is the quirky state of New Hampshire.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
Where President Joe Biden is not on Tuesday's ballot. A move by national Democratic leaders, which some consider a snub.
People said we're going to put that aside and we're going to support Joe Biden because we all know Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And the most important thing we can do to save democracy is to stop Donald Trump.
This is from 1992 convention.
Ray Buckley chairs the New Hampshire Democratic Party. But on Tuesday, Biden will not get his vote.
Since my election as chair, I've written in Jimmy Carter every single time to show that I am completely unbiased.
Buckley has voted for Democratic incumbent presidents in the past, but this time...
We were in shock and stunned.
The Democratic National Committee demoted New Hampshire from its historic spot as the first state primary in favor of South Carolina, with its more diverse voters. Angry state party officials scheduled the primary anyway.
We are going to the polls on Tuesday.
And Biden supporters began a write-in campaign. On the Republican side, a different kind of drama. In a windy minus 10 degrees Celsius, this is the line 4 hours before a Donald Trump event.
We love the Trumpster. He fights for us.
How many wars did we have when he was president? Everybody was happy. Everybody was making money.
Former President Donald Trump is pulling in the crowds at his rallies and polling at just over 50% among New Hampshire voters. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is at 35% in the Boston Globe poll.
She needs to sway me, so I'm open-minded to whatever it is she has to say.
Like Denise Montminy, many in line to see Haley are independents or Democrats who can vote on a Republican ballot here.
I'd like to hear a little less war hawkish rhetoric from her in terms of her stance on Ukraine and Israel-Palestine conflict.
Analysts say New Hampshire Republicans who are fiscal conservatives interested in lower taxes and smaller government could be Haley's last chance to stop Trump.
If she can't in a state that is tailor-made for that, I think it's fair to ask, well, what is the next step? What is the state where she will have another chance to beat Trump? And the number of states I can come up with is a very, very, very short one.
On Tuesday night, we find out whether New Hampshire voters offer any surprises.
In our sports news, the Eswatini Football Association president has announced new changes in the technical bench of the national team Sihlangu Semnikati. The changes see Green Mamba coach Ernest Mavuso and former Royal Leopard coach Sifiso Nuruntibane joining Dominic Kunene as assistants.
The Eswatini Football Association Executive Committee last week held their end-of-year retreat, which lasted for 2 days, where issues, which include the performance of the national team, Sihlangu Semnikati, were discussed. The Executive Committee decided to make some changes in the technical team of the national team.
Bese siyabuka lokuthi singenta njani lokuthi vele siperforme ngconywana. Kwase kuyabonakala ukuthi maybe the technical team ifuna ukuthi iboostwe kancane. Sase siyabona ke lokuthi maybe indlela kuyibooster kwanyalo lokuthi sirophe in 2 assistant coaches to assist Dominic. Lawo ma-assistant coaches mo Ernest Mavuso na Neuro Ndimane.
Executive Officer of the Football Association, Frederick Mgumezulu, has some good news for local football lovers concerning the construction of stands at Kalanga Technical Center.
Kube khona ukukhala lokuba khona kalanga kutawubuketwa nakhona ukuthi kungete kwakhiwa yini indzawo yokuhlala lencane nje ukuthi sive lesibukela ibhola kube khona lapho sihleli khona itawuqala incane kuye ngeminyaka ikhuliswe kancane kancane izifike kumbe esigabeni lesingajabulisa wonke umuntu lokhona ebholeni.
Mgomezulu also highlighted that there will be a technical committee to be set up which will monitor coaches when training their respective teams and the referees. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports, I'm Linda Dlamini Mbabane.
It's 29 minutes before 8 o'clock. We've come to the end of our show, of our bulletin. Thank you for staying with us. We'll leave you with the weather.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Eswatini Lifestyle is all about inspiration, drive, and swag. Eswatini Lifestyle is informative and fun while covering all aspects of life, be it people, places, and trends in the Kingdom of Eswatini. We got you covered. The focus is on the quality of life. Eswatini Lifestyle will spark your interest. Catch Eswatini Lifestyle every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV, Simbugo Semaswati.
Let me tell you about my crush. Nenzale inhlitiyo yami embibwakho njengekudance.
Ngondlo isiswayo.
It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
Wash!
Adios. Ungabukela ke washa umkhukhu every Sunday at 3 p.m.
and welcome to Eswatini TV and to a brand new talk show called A Cuppa with Nomgebo. And I do what I have to do because I know where I'm going. All 5 of my mothers have inspired me.
So the addiction didn't happen then. It happened again another 8 years later. But that's where it started.
Choices I made at the time were not the best choices for myself.
I understand how a person can lose their mind in terms of life experiences. That's what it looks like, and I like that. But you know what? The journey to my success is never a straight line.
Yeah, people are on the net now, and that's where we'd like to catch them with such shows.
Welcome back. Siyavuselana nalosanza kusivulela sibuka kakhulu nje kubuyela noma ke kuvula kwetikolo lamuhla. My colleague Solo ulapha imbabane uyavakashela nje itikolo letihlukahlukene kuhlola simo ukuthi sihamba kanjani. So vele sawukhona umnguni kuhamba kanjani lapho Sifiso?
Lungelele sisukile ka boys. As I'm talking to you right now, we are live at St. Mark's High School. This is a school that is renowned as well academically. But another interesting thing about St. Mark's is the intake. On average, they average at least 1,100 pupils every year. Loku sivula ke lomuhla. We do want to get a sense of, simo lapha esikolweni. But fortunately, siyamthola Tishela Nhloko lapha esikolweni make Kusile Shabango, Mrs. Lamini, who's going to explain to us, the build-up culminating to today. A lot of parents indeed were looking for Inzawe Banvana, and you can imagine how stressful that is to a head teacher. Labanye babathembisa ema cold drink ekutheni bafake bantwa babo. Mpele, welcome to the program. A big day namuhla, the official opening of schools. Siyababona bantwana, a lot of excitement, a lot of smiles on their faces, but only you can tell us the build up to this. Kuthi beyikanjani bantwana basafunela bantwana abantu badala basafunela bantwana tinzawo ngiyababona nanyalo labanye badrop abantwana babo.
Thank you very much, sir. It has been hectic. Since the 27th of December, we've been here and parents have been flocking to the school, requesting for places for their children. We had over 1,500 prospective learners, but unfortunately we could not accommodate all of them because of our infrastructure. Hence now, the ministry has requested the school to open another stream, yes, to accommodate more students, but we are already done with the admissions for that stream. The learners, as you can see, are excited. We are also excited to be back here because we are a school of excellence. Starting from today, teaching is going to take place because we don't want to waste any time. Yes, because every time, every minute is important to us as St. Mark's.
And with your permission, Tishela Nhloko, we'll speak to a few pupils here. We do understand this nyalo. Njengoba nje batibonela nebabukela emakhaya la titfombeni, but awungena ku assemble point. Perhaps ungasithi nje usebele kancane some of what will be communicated, some of the things that will be communicated to the pupils. You've highlighted Kutsi, yes, namuhla, business on day one. Ngiyafuna.
Yes, I shall be speaking to them about our mission. We are a public school that believes in God, that we want to make sure that every child that comes out of St. Mark's is aware that there is God who is above everything. Also, we are going to talk about our vision that we are a school that has a goal of producing learners that are going to be internationally recognized.
Thank you so much for your time. Asakubambeleli kakhulu. You do want to communicate that with the pupils. Njengoba sebangona khona ku-assemble point. We'll come back to you as studio. Hopefully, we will get back to us. Khona kukhulumisa some of the pupils here who are wearing a lot of smiles, and you can see some of them, the angst, the anxiety, probably mafomu ones ngelawo. But we will speak to some of them later on. Lungelele.
Sibonga Sifiso kusinikeza nesithombe ukuthi kwendekane St Mark's High School. That was Sifiso speaking to the principal khona esikoleni siphakeme lapha eMbabane St Mark's. Siyathemba ukuthi laphinza abuye nathi kuva ukuthi ngabe abafundi bona bathini. Early on nje sike sakhulumisana na clinical psychologist Ntomdlalo sakhuluma nje kabanti ngama tips on how to help your children ngokuthi mental health yakhe ibe ngileyole kahle. She did emphasize on indzaba ye open communication ngokuthi kubalekile ukuthi do communicate with your child makabuye esikoleni ukuthi uhambe kanjani esikoleni kwendekeni kube bedeni klubeteka labhekene nako umlandzelele make sure ukuthi your child is okay kude ungaduvikela tindzaba ukuthi umfana so ufuna ukuthi bula because she did mention ukuthi nakhona batibonile inombolo letinkulu kade eminyakeni lephelile abantwana labafike kulesigaba lesokuthi sabafuna ukuthi bulala ngenxa ye bullying. So she did emphasize indzaba ukuthi communicate nemfana akho onesiqiniseko sokuthi ukahle konke kuhamba kahle esikolweni. Ngapha kumanje asasibuke UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres nakakhuluma emhlanganweni we-G77 plus China.
60 years ago, recognizing the need for unity and solidarity in the face of common challenges, the G77 was born. Over the decades, you have been an engine for South-South cooperation and development, lifted millions of people out of poverty, and provided a powerful voice for developing countries on the global stage. Today, you are the largest grouping of the Global South, representing 80% of the world's population. And your solidarity and partnership are essential to building a sustainable, peaceful, and just world for all. A world in which the United Nations Charter, international law, and human rights prevail in global relations. Excellencies, halfway to the 2030 deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals, far from leaving no one behind, we are leaving half the world behind. Progress on poverty and hunger is stalling, and in some countries going into reverse. Many G77 members are grappling with an economic hangover from the COVID-19 pandemic, crippling debts, a cost of living crisis, and sky borrowing costs. Hundreds of millions of people around the world, particularly women and girls, are living without the most basic respect for their human rights, and the lack of jobs is generating enormous frustration among young people. Climate disasters, most of you did little to create, are knocking chunks out of your economies and increasing people's suffering. Investment in sustainable development and climate action is slipping further out of reach. And while South-South cooperation is strong and deepening, it does not replace the need for the respect of the commitment of the Global North, for sustained engagement to reduce poverty and inequality, support growth, and build resilience in developing countries. Digital technologies have enormous potential for good, but they are also inflaming inequalities. The International Monetary Fund warns that artificial intelligence could make things even worse. And peace, the foundation of sustainable development, is breaking down amidst a climate of global impunity. Around the world, from Sudan to Ukraine, the Middle East and beyond, wars are devastating lives, fueling mass movements of people, disrupting global supply chains, and threatening to set entire regions alight. In Gaza, Israel's military operations have spread massive destruction and killed civilians on a scale unprecedented during my time as Secretary General, including more than 150 members of our own staff, following the horrific terror attacks by Hamas on 7 October. This is heartbreaking and utterly unacceptable. The Middle East is a tinderbox. We must do all we can to prevent conflict igniting across the region. And that starts with an immediate humanitarian ceasefire to relieve the suffering in Gaza, allow humanitarian aid to reach everyone in need, and facilitate the release of hostages, which should be immediate and unconditional. The repeated refusal yesterday to accept the two-state solutions for Israeli and Palestinians is totally unacceptable, as I told the summit of the non-aligned movement. The denial of the right to statehood for the Palestinian people would indefinitely prolong a conflict that has become a major threat to global peace and security, exacerbate polarization, and embolden extremists everywhere. Excellencies, righting our troubled world depends on effective global action. Yet the international system is out of date, out of time, and out of step, reflecting a bygone age when many of your countries were still colonized. The United Nations Security Council is paralyzed by geopolitical divisions, and its composition does not reflect the reality of today's world. It must be reformed. And the global financial system, including the Bretton Woods institutions, have failed to provide a global safety net for developing countries in distress, as it was created after the Second World War in a totally different global economic situation. Yet, amidst all this gloom, there is hope. Last year, the SDG Summit issued a strong political declaration thanks in large part to the advocacy and tenacity of G77 countries. And this year, we have an opportunity to build on that success. The Summit of the Future, to be held in New York in September, is a generational opportunity. It aims to reform and revitalize multilateralism so that it works for everyone, everywhere, and meets the challenges of today. It is a chance to create the conditions for countries to achieve the SDGs, to find consensus on frameworks to address new challenges, and to build a better world for us all. We rely on the G77 plus China to make the Summit of the Future a success, to seize this opportunity and to find common solutions. The Summit will consider deep reforms of the international financial architecture. Financial institutions and frameworks created after the Second World War still largely correspond to the power relations and the global economy of that time. They must be reformed so that they are truly universal, reflect with justice the realities of today, and are much more responsive to the needs of developing countries. I have also proposed an SDG stimulus of $500 billion a year in affordable long-term finance for sustainable development and climate action in developing countries. And multilateral development banks must be adequately capitalized and must change their business models to leverage far more private finance for developing countries at reasonable costs. The SDG stimulus calls for urgent action on debt, including breathing space for countries facing unbearable repayment schedules. And it calls for the expansion of the contingency financing for countries in need, including through the rechanneling of special drawing rights. Momentum is building. All countries backed these proposals in the SDG Summit last year, but now we must turn them into reality. So, Excellencies, beyond the Summit of the Future, I ask you to unite against climate catastrophe. The very existence of some countries in this room depends on limiting global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, in line with the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in light of different national circumstances. I urge you to hold developed countries to account for climate justice and for leading an equitable and just transition based on the phase-out of fossil fuels and massive investment in renewable energy. All financial commitments must be met. Clarifying the delivery of the $100 billion and doubling adaptation finance by 2025 are only starting points. The Loss and Damage Fund is a step forward and a testament to the power of the Global South. But we must call for meaningful contributions that have not yet been announced. And we must also advocate for an ambitious new finance goal for the future at COP29. And we must not forget that the just and equitable energy transition includes producing and trading critical minerals in a way that is fair, sustainable, and provides maximum benefit to developing countries. They must be more than simple exporters of raw materials. Excellencies, new technologies can turbocharge progress towards the SDGs. Our proposed Global Digital Compact aims to ensure that in a new technological era, no one is left behind. And I hope it will be agreed at the Summit of the Future. And the high-level body on artificial intelligence that I created, which includes several experts from G77 countries, and is balanced 50% North and 50% South, has already made preliminary recommendations on global artificial intelligence governance, including with the objective of accelerating the Sustainable Development Goals. The new Scientific Advisory Board is also working to ensure scientific breakthroughs are shared equally for the benefit of all. And I praise the efforts done by the Presidency of Cuba to put science and technology in the center of G77 concerns. I encourage you to engage in all these efforts. The 21st century cannot replicate the vast inequalities of the 20s. Do not let new rules for new technologies be written by the rich for the rich. Excellencies, let us face it, those that benefit most from the present global governance system are unlikely to lead its reform. So momentum for change must come from you. I urge you to keep driving these efforts forward. We have a chance to cultivate a just, peaceful and prosperous future where no one is left behind. But for that, a lot needs to be changed and reformed. Together, let's unite to fight to make it a reality. And I thank you.
That was Antonio Guterres, who is the UN Secretary General, akhuluma emhlanganweni omkhulu we-G77 plus China. Kanti-ke kulo 7 minutes lo Celeste awubuyela kuye my colleague Sifiso Nxumalo lo solo alapha edolobheni uhlola Donati Kolwa ukuthi kuhamba kanjani Mngoni, kuhamba kanjani sokuphi inyalo?
Fombeni, I'm still at St. Mark's, quite shockingly enough, because you will remember, a few minutes ago, now Minglanai St. Mark's, was a lot of pupils around me, as well as the teachers that were around them. Let's see a assembly point. I'm not too sure if the sound the assembly point audible in Lapo, but that's the current situation where I'm at. Back assembly point, head teacher, we have a cool miss, and as she did say, the Christian school utawugcizelela logo, so bahlabelisile ke ingoma ekholwa nyalo ubahleplela nje livesi letawuba motivator basatawungena khona eklasini baye kuyawufunza ushilo ukuthi on the very first day it is going to be business lapha eSt. Mark's but awungena khona emaklasini bavele bafunze. But perhaps just a highlight of the day, the general sentiment and what we are getting is that everything ihamba ngeluhla njengoba ke litiko letemfundo belishilo ukuthi everything will be seamless kuvulwa kwetikolo, even though there were certain organizations and people that were a bit skeptical indzaba yokuthi is it the perfect time to open schools. Kuba adamant kwalo litiko letemfundo siyakubona ukuthi they had a good reason to be adamant ekutheni nativulwe konke kungilokuhamba kahle. Why am I saying this? You will remember masicala lihlelo sicale khona edolobheni saqala ebus rank sibuka nje ukuthi kusaqalwa ekuseni ngetingweti bakhona indvele lasebavele basemigwaqweni kuya esikolweni emakhumbi bese kungileli nani lebesithi itolo tsengavulwa tikolwa besilibona lelo nani nakubumbana insimbi bo-8 but namuhla sikubone lokho ngabo-6 ekuseni sibeseke sinyukela khona esikolweni lesiphakeme ka-boys. We spoke to a few pupils there who shared their excitement and their goals for this academic year from as little as the Form 1s who were wearing a lot of angst on their faces, a lot of nervousness. Nabo bavetelwe ukuthi bafuna ukuthi nabangena la kule tikolo abanyuse amasokisi because they have gotten this good opportunity of kufunza esikolweni lesiphefoma kahle nakangaka. We also spoke to some of the Form 5 pupils who even shared some of their goals outside of Form 5 ekuthenini bafuna kuyafunzela ini kubo tertiary. Samkeliso Dlamini ushilo ukuthi ufuna kuyafunzela tebuchwephesha i-ICT. Vuyokazi Dlamini naziviwe Dlamini who just met today, but it was quite beautiful to see the kind of camaraderie that they have as two young girls who are still in high school. We then what we really notice on our way to St. Mark's from Ega Boys, the traffic is really high. The traffic leyo isimangaliseka kakhulu, sicishe nje safika late lana sicishe sabakhanza assembly, but that's to show ukuthi vele kuvula kwetikolo akusho ukuthini. But ake sibuke naba bantwana lesikhona kubakhulumisa lapha eSt. Mark's, nakhona sikhonile ukukhulumisa bantwana labavete excitement yabo. Igama lakho nesibongo sakho ukuthi wenda from bani eSt. Mark's, excited kangakanani ukubuya esikolweni?
Okay, igama lami ngisenzelwe Nkosi Dlamini and I came here for grade 8. I am excited at the same time nervous because it's like a new environment for me and I hope I'll be welcomed warmly and I'll have fun in the school.
Yeah. St. Mark's is one of the highly rated schools around Eswatini. I can imagine the pressure that you can feel now you want to be amongst the top performers. How will you ensure indeed you are a top performer lapha esikolweni?
Firstly, I'll pull up my socks even more than I did in primary school. And I'll make sure in classes that I don't, like maybe there's a subject I don't understand, okay, I didn't understand here and stuff like that.
Entering the hall, we can't wait to hear what we can't wait to hear what the school has in store for us this year.
Yeah. How excited are you about the new year, Skolweni, and what are your goals this year academically?
My goals academically are just to excel, really, that's all. I am very excited for this academic year, just hoping for the best because school is very unpredictable, but we are hoping just for the best and only for the best.
Name is? What grade you're doing and how excited you are for this new academic year.
Hi, my name is Bielon Dlangamandla. I'm in grade 10. Yes, I'm very excited to be in school, back to school, yes. Can't wait to learn, because there've always been hold-ups, but hopefully now we're going on a straight path and nothing shall interfere with education, yes.
Yeah. What are your goals this year academically?
These goals, A's and A stars only.
Awesome, good luck. Yeah, well, there it is, the pupils themselves. Well, there it is, the pupils themselves. Uyativela emagama abo bajabule kakhulu kubuya esikolweni. I think two of them even said besesihleli kakhulu emakhaya sesibhorekile, which is good to hear from umfunzi. Kuvalo ukuthi basakuthakasela kubuya esikolweni batawufunza. That was it from us nabo bafunzi. Siyethemba ukuthi ke umnyaka utawuba ngilomuhle basachubeka ke nekufunza emnyakeni wa 2024. My results aqhubeke abe ngila improve kubantwana baqhubekele kuma tertiary kwakhiwe live nakhona esikoleni sethemba ukuthi kutaba ngiwo emagonzo ankwe. Sibuyele kuwe studio Lungelele.
All right, thanks so much Sifisa ukusiniketa leso sithombe leso ukuthi the first day of school ihambe kanjani lapha eMbabane. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our show. Thank you for joining us today. Kanti ke mawuthanda ukusivulela, you can also watch this episode on our YouTube channel, Eswatini TV. We'll see you tomorrow. Nsale kahle.
Than gold, whiter than snow, deeper than the ocean, wider than the sea.
Encwadini Jeremiah 29 lithi iBhayibheli, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to destroy you, plans to give you hope and not to harm you. Mbukeli uNkulunkulu unemaplani lamahle ngawe, akunenzaba ukuthi undlula kuphi, akunenzaba ukuthi ubhekana nesimo lesimadima kangakanani. Lufanele ukwazi ukuthi uNkulunkulu ngeke akushiye, ngeke akudele. Mbukeli uthi I'll never leave nor forsake you. Akathi I will sometimes be with you, kepha uyohlala nawe ngaso sonke isikhathi. Uthi I will be with you. Kusho ukuthi noma ngabe simo siphetha kangakanani, uNkulunkulu nawe. Hlala emthandazweni kulomnyaka. Mbukeli yasinde njalo singasuki uNkulunkulu wethembekile. Akafana labanye abahlobo, ongumhlobo longafana labanye abahlobo, ongumhlobo longasuki, ongumhlobo longagucuki, ongumhlobo longakubaleli ukuthi wenda initolo. Asente njalo Mbukeli sethembeke kuye nawe utawenda njalo, utasiphendvula, utasifikisa la sifuna khona. Mbukeli ekugcineni utasiphumelelisa, asihlale kuye. Ngalawo mavi ngisasinalithuba ngivusele ngikwamukele ehlelo lakho lihamba embele iGospel Impact. Mbukeli luhlelo lapho khona sivumisa nomdzala wethu insuku ngadoda ingoma kanye siphinde sihlale phansi nawo ama-gospel artists kuva kabande ukuthi baqale njani in the music industry nokuthi batibona kuphi in the next coming years. Today on the show, we have our own local gospel artist